All right, what's going on, people? We are back once again. JV Wins, Dogon SS here for another edition of the Conscious Approach channel on YouTube. Thanks
You.
to everybody out there for tuning in. Thanks to everybody who has been subscribing to the channel, hitting that like button, leaving those comments. Y'all a fool for that Dank DeMoss video, by the way. Yeah, I'm glad that there's still some sanity left in the world. And at least on our platform, we didn't have too many people caping for this woman. So I'm glad that there was some order reestablished on that front.
That was a crazy thumbnail,
Yeah,
bro.
but yeah, we are back. JV Wins, Dogon SS, Conscious Approach once again, February the 25th. Major shouts out to the Conscious Approach community. Before we get things kicked off, I want to say, as always, that we are now available wherever you get your podcasts. So check us out on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Just want to be available any and everywhere possible at all times. So if you are, at the gym, or if you're driving or otherwise not available to watch the video on YouTube, check us out on any of those outlets because we are now available there as well. Furthermore, if this is your first time catching wind of what we like to do here on this channel, this is pretty much how we like to rock. So leave some feedback, leave a comment, leave a like, and of course, subscribe to the channel so that you can get that notification whenever new content is posted. We certainly appreciate it as we continue to kick this logical content and get this train rocking and rolling. Now, with that out of the way, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. The first thing that we are going to discuss this week are interesting comments made by Rihanna, who is no doubt elated, feeling pretty relieved that ASAP Rocky was found not guilty at his recent trial, and they'll be able to keep things pushing as normal. But Rihanna recently lamented how she feels about listening to some of her old music, and she interestingly said that outside of the last album that she released, which was the Anti album back in, I believe it was 2014, she says she actually feels shame listening to anything else. She said she always felt shame listening to her old work. The only exception to that is the Anti album. So I thought that this was pretty interesting. I felt like we'd go ahead and discuss what might be the genesis of some of these emotions. So this says Rihanna admits she can only listen to one of her albums with no shame. It's no secret that Rihanna fans have been begging for a new album for years, and now it looks like one might finally be on the horizon. During a recent interview with Harper's Bazaar, the hitmaker dropped a few hints about what's to come, leaving listeners than ever to find out. According to the Fenty Beauty founder, it won't be what they might expect either. I've been in the studio the whole 8 years, she explained, but it didn't hit me. I was searching for it. I went through phases of what I wanted to do, this kind of album, not that album. I know it's not going to be anything that anybody expects. And it's not going to be commercial or radio digestible. It's going to be where my artistry deserves to be right now. I feel like I finally cracked it, girl. The album will be Rihanna's first since she dropped Anti in 2016. So I think I said 2014, but it came out in 2016. During the interview, she also reflected on that project, admitting that it's the only one of her own albums she can listen to with no shame. Let's see. I listened to Anti from top to bottom with no shame. I used to always have shame. I actually don't like listening to my music, but Anti, I can listen to the album. She revealed. It's like it's not singing. It's like it's not me singing it. If I'm just listening to it, that's the one album that I can have an out of body experience where it's not like when you hear your voice in a voicemail and it's like ugh. Talk of Riri's new album comes just a few days after her long-term partner ASAP Rocky was found not guilty of felony assault with a firearm. Upon hearing the verdict, the rapper immediately jumped into her arms. Thank y'all for saving my life, he told jurors as they left the courtroom. So, yeah, that's pretty much how Rihanna feels about that. She says she used to her albums, except for that last one, she kind of listens to with a certain degree of shame. And I also thought it was interesting that she said, um, where is it? The quote. My computer is like acting weird at the moment, but there was that part where she was like, "It's not going to be commercial." Where
Hmm.
I'll go. But what do you make of what she had to say there? What I thought that those were interesting comments.
Yeah, I think they're interesting too. I think they're interesting for a whole nother reason. I'm pretty sure than yours. And I'm about to go jump off a ledge. While you go look up that quote, man. But yeah, I was looking at the track listing for this one. I didn't really listen to that album. I think I listened to like the other one, whatever one that she had. Be better have my money. Because when that song came out, I was rocking out to that. I thought that song went hard. But the anti album, for what it's worth, I heard a lot of good things about it. When it first came out. So, I'll take her word for it. But I went down some TikTok rabbit holes.
Okay,
Uh yeah, probably mm, I think when the whole Jay-Z scandal went scandalous. So it wasn't that too long ago when he was first getting hit with those lawsuits. But I was going down some rabbit holes with that. And basically, what the what do we call these people? Internet sleuths. Is that the word?
yeah, that's what I call them. Yeah,
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a word. I hear other people saying that. So,
yeah.
yeah, man. The internet investigators, the internet dot connectors. They were putting some stuff together. Basically saying, just pointing out the fact that when Rihanna signed with Jay Z and them, she was, still underage. You know, and she came to the country. Off some other stuff. I don't know, her manager or somebody, just decided to link her up with Jay Z. So, she met with Jay Z late night, and he basically was like, "Hey man, you got to sign this deal. You're not leaving here. You got to sign this deal," type of thing. And and there's clips where she's I don't know if it's 106 in Park or TRLs, one of those damn things where she was, oh, it was a Tyra Banks. I think it was Tyra Banks, one of those. And she was sitting there joking around with her. Tyra Banks brought up that situation where Jay didn't want to let her leave unless she signed. And so pretty much she was somebody that got swooped up into into the industry. They made her an industry person. She had talent, but they put her through all of these loops and whoop de whoops to become Rihanna, the global sensation. And so she had to do things musically she didn't care for. She had to do other things that she didn't really care for. And the anti album was the opposite of that for her world, as far as how the rabbit hole was directing me. And that was more or less her piece of work where she was like, "Hey, look, I'm not with the shenanigans anymore. I'm just gonna do me." That the little person on the cover is supposed to be symbolic of her, with the crown covering her eyes, basically like some symbolic of some innocent stuff, or she didn't really have a chance to be herself. She was pretty much taken and swept into this music game. So that album was her articulating musically her struggles within the game, and that's what I was taking from that. That's pretty much a rough overview of the rabbit hole. But and I kind of felt that at the time it was her last album. She hadn't come out with any work since, and that was just her rebellion album. So when she says she listens to her old music and it's shameful, besides anti, it's probably shameful to her because that's not who she was. It's not what she represented. And that album, to her, that anti album was her putting herself on wax, so to speak. And I remember when it first came out, I don't know what her fan base are called. I don't know if there's beehives for Beyonce, but I don't know the Rehive. All right, so the Rehive, it was mixed reviews initially, but of course, as time went on, people were saying they was driving with it, and yeah, that's when I was That's when I was having playlists and stuff in the cab when I'm sitting there playing and stuff, and I play it and I would get mixed reviews. Uh, but I think overall it aged well, and people always referred back to that, and they wanted more from her. So since she said it's not going to be any, I guess, radio stuff, anything friendly like that. She's gonna make music that she wants to make. So I guess with her saying all of these things in a roundabout way, she says, hey, I'm gonna make another album, maybe not like Anti, but it's gonna be anti in a sense that it's not gonna be industry, quote unquote. It's gonna be her, speaking her mind. So I'm down with that. Will I be listening to it? I'll give it a skim. I'll give it a skim. I won't hold my breath. These artists always talk about their latest project is the best thing that they've ever done, and it's the crappiest thing they've ever done. But we'll see what Rihanna's cooked up, man. She has some years to sit back. She went through some things, so it'll be interesting. But what are your thoughts, man, on what Rihanna had to say? Basically saying that she was pretty much ashamed of all of her old work except Anti. What are your thoughts?
So that quote is, um, I know it's not going to be anything that anybody expects, and it's not going to be commercial or radio digestible. It's
Yeah, I like
going it's going to be where my artistry deserves to be right now. And I feel like I finally cracked it. Your interpretation wasn't far off from mine. I didn't go down the rabbit hole that you went,
that. Oh
but
man.
my conclusion essentially was that that tells me that everything that she had done prior to Anti was it was it was like an amalgamation of other people's music.
Yeah.
Now there was some of her that was in it, but a lot of it was other people and other people's influence and other people's sound and other people's writing. And so I guess she probably feels like it's not really where her artistry exists or where she wanted it to be, or it doesn't necessarily speak to who she is as an individual. I actually like the sound of this because to me, whenever an individual says, I'm going to make music that's for myself, that's an indication that that's an indication that they're saying, I am no longer confined to the shackles of the music industry, and I am in a position where I can essentially do whatever I want with my art, and you can take it or leave it. She's almost reached a phase, at least from her words here, she's
Hmm.
almost reached a phase where whatever she does musically henceforth is going to be for herself more than anybody else. And if you like it, then she'll probably look at it as an ancillary bonus. But
Hmm.
she's not necessarily going in with the intent that it's going to be something that is consumed on a mass scale. And I commend her for that. And I really wish other artists, well, first of all, to be clear, in order to get to the point where you are in a position to do whatever you want creatively, you first have to play the industry game for long enough to be successful in such a way that you essentially can finance your way into making your own music. Having said that, not everyone is in that position. The vast majority of these artists, they come in, they are given an infrastructure, they sign deals that aren't advantageous to their own pockets and bottom line, and they are essentially making music at the whim of their handlers
Hmm.
or their teams or whoever is being assigned to make sure that their career is being watched over in whatever manner it needs to be watched over. Very few of them get to a point where they're able to exceed beyond that and be at a point both financially, primarily financially, but also resources wise, to be able to do whatever you want and make art for yourself. And you look at fanfare and fan interest in whatever you do as a bonus, because essentially you're at peace with the fact that what you did for yourself and you're proud of it. And
Hmm.
even whether somebody likes it or not, the victory lies in the fact that you made art that speaks to who you are and is not concerned with mass appeal or what anyone else has to say about it. And we talk about the mainstreaming of a particular type of popularized sound within like the hip hop ecosystem of music and how much that's killing it. And the reason why that particular phenomenon is able to persist is because the music industry extracts everything that it can from these artists before it casts them by the wayside. And a lot of these people never even get the chance to learn and grow and evolve before their candle dims out, and they never even get the chance to make their own music because the industry decides we're done with you. We've already extracted what we can.
Hmm.
And so, if the industry did its job to popularize a different kind of sound to allow more of a diverse tapestry of the music, that wouldn't necessarily be the status quo. But of course, that makes things less lucrative for the industry. So there's no incentive for them to do that. So as a result, we're in a situation where everything is pretty much going to sound the same, and your responsibility is to cash in on the brief window of success that you can, so that you can make what you can make and then move on to something else. Because eventually, the music industry gets rid of you and doesn't give you the opportunity to evolve to the point where you can make whatever you want to make. And I think that that's something that music as a whole does, but I think it is particularly uniquely more pronounced with this genre of music that we tend to consume the most. You know, the hip hop stuff, the rap stuff, and the R&B stuff, you know, particularly from our community. I feel like that dynamic is a little more pronounced. And those in Rihanna's position are far and few between, people who can evolve to the point where they can do whatever they want. And it doesn't really matter whether people like it or not, because maybe they can pay for their own publishing. They're not signed to a deal. Maybe their tour is at the they'll put the tour together whenever they feel like it, because they're not beholden to the tour and the show money, because they don't need it. And she doesn't need it. She's richer off of her fashion and you know, beauty stuff than anything else she ever did in music. You know, I was looking at her net worth, her net worth, and it's way up there, bro. Like, I didn't even know that she was worth as much as she is off of that stuff. So she's at a point, resources wise, financially, where she's not beholden to the infrastructure of the music industry.
Hmm.
So I think what she expressed is something that more artists than we know feel. Unfortunately, those artists will never get the opportunity to do what she's doing because they're not as unique enough as she is to be able to stay relevant within music for long enough to evolve to the point where they care less about making music that's easily consumable and more about making music that they like for themselves, and anybody else who happens to like it can join them along for the ride. You know, it's like a running back. Most running backs in the NFL have a shelf life of what, 5 years?
Hmm.
Like, very few running backs have a career that stands the test of time. So you can't really worry about playing for Super Bowls or playing in the right system that's going to maximize your abilities. Your responsibility is to cash in on the brief window that you can as much as possible, because it's more likely than not that your career won't last beyond 5 years, and it won't be long enough for you to be in position to be within a winning formula. So those were pretty much my initial thoughts on that. I think her words are a testament to what happens when individual artistry is given the time to evolve. And it's also a condemnation of the industry overall, once again, because I don't think the business of music really cares about artist development. And the individuals who profit off of the business of music, of course, don't care about artist development. And this is the vicious cycle that we are in now, because when you don't care about artist development, and artists aren't given the time to develop, you run into problems with singularity of sound, bad music, bad quality, and everything being conformity and just overall garbage. So I hope what she is saying, she sticks to it, and I hope she does come out with more anti-like stuff, because whether I like it or not, everybody deserves the right to be able to make what they want to make. So, you know, I hear her, and good luck to her.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that, man. I feel like the industry as a whole, um, you know, it's called the industry for a reason. Um, when you're dealing with something that is from the heart, if you're dealing with something that has soul, there's nothing about that industrial. So when you're dealing with the industry, you're dealing with a product, and their whole mo is turning things out for a profit. And yeah, so artist development. artists making what they feel. No, they don't care about any of that. They care about what they can do formulaically in order to generate hits. And even then, they got these streaming things in their back pocket. They got these radio stations in their back pocket, and various social media outlets in their back pocket. Hell, ask Drake. He'll let you know that these major labels got things in their back pockets, and they can pull strings if they want, and they can make a hit, and they can make a somebody uh, just cause. There's no reason we should know who a Takashi 69 is. Uh, there's no reason why we should know. Hell, I can go down the list. I don't know, man. I'm
Lil
blanking
Pump,
right.
Lil Pump,
Lil Pump, Trippy Red.
Trippy Red.
I can go down the list, man. There's a whole bunch of brain rot rappers in the game, muddy in the water. And who's giving these people a platform? Nobody wants to hear that. I don't care their hardest song, the song that made them blow up or whatever that got those people the most spins. It's not as good as quality work. Sometimes, man, I'll still be listening to my degenerate music sometimes, and this is music playing on a playlist, and something to pop up, and I go, hey man, who's this guy? Never heard of the guy. But this song, it goes crazy. And but you're not gonna hear about that guy because that song is buried on some mixtape that came out in 2019. And if that got enough airplay, that guy would be on and popping. That would have been a classic. But nah, man. So there's plenty of music out there that people are making, that they're making just because they want to make it. They make it because they like it, and it's proliferating the internet. But the thing is, it's being overshadowed by the industrial garbage that's also being spewed out there in the airwaves. So the whole thing is that this industry, they are going to prop up whoever they want to prop up, because certain people have to push a certain narrative and certain agendas. So for in the hip hop community, we already know what they're promoting. When it comes to pop artists and stuff like that, they're promoting degenerate forms of love, convoluted forms of love, aka lust, and other types of brain rottish things in that department. Very superficial stuff, and that's pop artists, whether they're white or black. I've heard some of Taylor Swift's lyrics. I didn't bother to listen to any of those Starbucks songs. But if it was like some stuff that was going on with her last album where people was actually reading the lyrics, and I said, this is laughable. Who listens to this? But she has, I don't know how many fans, man. It is ridiculous.
Yeah, you
And
can't
nobody,
tell. Yeah, what you're saying right now, you can't tell any of them people any of that. They don't
well,
want to hear.
you can't tell a Swifty that you're the fan of a industry plant. You can't tell them that. Taylor Swift's not an industry. She's an industry plant. She's one of the biggest out there. You know, she's not talented. There's nothing talented. There's not a talented bone in her body. And trust me, you can see her bones through her skin. So, you should be able to see if there's a talented one in there. Can't find one. So, no, man. So, yeah, there's a whole bunch. The game is riddled with industry plants. So, there's people out there like the Rihannas that was given the industry plant formula, but she still had talent. And I think everybody can see that. So she was a talented woman that was given the industry plant treatment. And those are the ones that really, for the most part, kind of blow up, you know. And so Rihanna has a strong fan base out there, a lot of loyalists. And even though she was an industry person and she did a lot of industry things that I thought was weird, there was still something about her that I felt that was doing it reluctantly. And so, with all of this stuff coming out and her saying these words recently, yeah, I can understand that. And I can see that, and I think her fans can see that and feel that coming from her too. So yeah, man, the industry's a wild place. They do a lot of wild things. Those Diddy parties, but everybody claimed they left before midnight. But that stuff goes on for a reason. And I think I mentioned this before when we was talking about that Diddler stuff. Is that I think that's when we were talking about when Bow Wow was saying the game miss. We need Puffy back in the game. And I pretty much say, hey man, the people that you hear of on the radio, the people that you see enough of, hell, back in the day, if they was on BET and MTV, those are the people that attended those parties. Those are the people that stayed a little later, you know. And for the people that didn't want to play ball, pun intended, they didn't get the treatment. And so and they didn't get enough spins or whatever. So, the industry does what it does. They gatekeep, they do all kinds of things. And I think Rihanna played all of those games reluctantly. And like you said, I think she's in a position now financially. Hell, I looked it up when you said it. I didn't know that. Bro. That thing said 1.2 bill. But that Fendi line is going insane. The ladies love it. So I can see why her assets are worth at least that much. So yeah, she's in a position where she doesn't have to kiss the ring, so to speak. So hey man, it'll be interesting. Like I said, I'll give it a listen. I'm sure even though she said it's not gonna be radio friendly or whatever. I'm pretty sure there's still gonna be some stuff in there that I'm gonna label as lustful or any other type of deadly sin. But in the meantime, man, rock out. I like the idea of it all, but overall, man, the industry is a beast, um, and I pretty much don't like anything that comes from it. So if she's gonna be anti of that, I support it.
Yeah, I don't really know what talent even is anymore. I don't know because to me, if you're a singer, if you're a quote unquote artist, there are certain aspects of your art that you have a direct hand in.
Hmm.
So I'm a nerd when it comes to this stuff.
Hmm.
I spend a lot of time deep diving, looking into the credits on a lot of albums and songs. So
Hmm.
I don't know why. I'm always fascinated by that. I always, sometimes I'll go down a rabbit hole and I'll look at the production and the songwriting credits for albums and stuff like that because
Hmm.
I want to know who wrote this song, who wrote the lyrics, who produced the beat, and all of that kind of stuff. And honestly, I hear everything that you're saying,
Hmm.
but at this point in time, I don't know. I don't know that there's much of a difference between Rihanna and Taylor Swift. Uh,
Damn.
yes, and the reason why I say that is because, like, Rihanna is somebody who she's a beautiful girl, obviously, and she's a great entertainer. She's a star in
Hmm.
terms of her performance value. But I've done a lot of deep diving on
Hmm.
her albums, and there's a ton of her songs that she didn't even write. Like a lot of these songs aren't written by these people.
Oh, of
So,
course.
so yeah. So for me personally, this is just my opinion. No one has to agree with my opinion, but for me personally,
Hmm.
I like, okay, so you can sing a song all day and put the vocals on it. That's fine. But for me, the greater talent lies in who wrote the music. For me. So yeah, so like Rihanna, a lot of her music she didn't write. It was written by some, so the concepts for those songs and the words themselves came from someone else's brain.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so when I think of it along those lines, for me, her talent lies in her performance value, what she gives you in terms of vocalizing the songs that have been written for her, and then how she performs live and in person.
Hmm.
For me, I feel like that is on the same wavelength as Taylor Swift in terms of level of talent. And I'm not trying to belittle or big up either one of them. I'm just saying, what the hell is talent anymore? Because a lot of these individuals don't write their own music. They're, depending on the genre, they're not playing any instruments.
Mhm.
So what exactly are they doing other than performing the music that's been written for them? So I bring all of that up to say perhaps this is going to be a trend for her moving forward where maybe she's going to be writing more of her own stuff. Maybe her not making stuff that's commercial and formulaic also means I'm going to be writing more of my own stuff. Some of this stuff is going to be coming more from my soul than the soul of another person, and I'm merely putting vocals over it. And I got a lot of respect for Rihanna, but as you said, she was largely a product of the music industry
Yeah.
in such a way that a lot of the concepts and music that she put out there weren't solely from her. And I
Yeah.
mean,
100.
I looked up a lot of the songwriting credits for all of her albums. It's all written by the Dream, written by this person, written by that person, and she just did the vocals. She just performed the music. So that's my whole thing is I feel like the industry, the music industry as a whole, as we know, is just in need of an enema. Like what like we need a come to Jesus moment on
Uh,
what is talent. Because with Taylor Swift, I see her on stage playing the piano and the guitar. And I'm not a fan of Taylor Swift, but if she's actually playing these instruments, I gotta give her a notch in the victory column in terms of talent for stuff like that. Because at least she's doing it. So it is what it is, man. We just need, the music industry to me has just become so bastardized. I don't really know what talent is because to me, talent has always been you write your music, maybe you get input from other people. Maybe other people can come in and say, don't say it like this, say it like that. Maybe don't use this word, use that word. But what's actually happening is the whole thing is being written by someone else's brain. And this has been going on for decades, so this is nothing new.
mhm.
But we're calling things talent and celebrating and lauding these individuals for being these creative geniuses. And I don't see how you can leap to the conclusion that they deserve to be distinguished as such when they're not writing any of this stuff, in my opinion. Like if you want to credit somebody for their performative value, that's a separate conversation that we can have. But in terms of just overall categorizing somebody as this or that in terms of their artistry, we need to properly contextualize that for me. So maybe she'll be on the right path when it comes to that, because Lord knows we need it, especially when it comes to a lot of the music that I used to listen to, with these fake rappers, these fake tough guys, these individuals that don't write their own stuff. Some of the most popular rappers in the world who wrote some of the most popular hip hop songs in the last 5 years, they didn't even write it, but they get all the credit in the world for how great the song is. To me, the credit goes to whoever wrote the song.
Mhm.
That's how I see that. And that includes a lot of songs Drake wrote, of course, as we know, but a lot of other songs written by a lot of these people who are highly publicized. And the last thing that I'll say is you remember Pink? Remember Pink, the pop chick Pink?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I remember when Pink first came out, I was very confused by her. She was signed to Layface Records, and she was coming out with a lot of songs that sounded real R&B like, but she looked she was a white girl. So it
Yeah.
was interesting to me that she was producing that kind of sound, but she looked the way that she looked, pink highlights, pink hair, and all of this kind of stuff. She looked like a rocker chick to me. Like
Mhm.
she looked like a grunge chick to me.
Mhm.
Lo and behold, years later, once she became more of her own entity music wise, none of the stuff she was making sounded like her earlier stuff. It was all rock stuff. It was all pop rock and rock music. None of it sounded like that earlier stuff she was doing that sounded real R&B like. So to me, that kind of tells me she was able to free herself from the shackles of the constraints of the music industry that was keeping her from making what she wanted to make. And so it can be done. There's precedent for it, but I just feel like it's far and few between because of what the industry represents. But these days, when it comes to this music stuff, bro, yeah, I'll listen to your stuff, but I don't know how much of that you wrote. I don't know how much of that came from your brain. Therefore, I don't really know how to properly assess the talent, quote unquote, that you are alleged to have. So,
That's
so the more that we see a lot of these individuals doing this, writing their own stuff, making sure that they don't care about commercialization or mass appeal, I'm going to continue to just put them all in the same bucket of yeah, you might be able to perform a song here or there, but I don't really know how talented you actually are.
I guess you. And I guess what I was getting at is it's more of a relative term, relative talent. I guess performative. Due to the fact that, well, yeah, like you said, well, nobody writes their stuff. Um, even if there's rappers, and they put their, I mean, I've heard all kinds of stuff. Oh yeah, we'll collaborate in there. We'll whoop de whoop, or all kinds of stuff, man. There's not really. I think when we're dealing with what the industry is, you're not really getting anybody that puts pen to pad and does their own thing, like through and through all the way. I guess there's some people that claim they do that, but overall, man, the industry is what it is. They have to produce a product, and so yeah, so nobody does. Nobody writes anything, you know. So none of these singers write their own songs, and I think everybody knows that by now. I think Rihanna's talent is more or less because I think she was discovered more for just her looks. Because people, she had to grow on people. She had to at least grow on me, like a forehead, you know. And so it was just some stuff where I was just like, hey man, like what's going on here with this? But I think the thing with her, at least I guess that's how it was sold to me, is that hey man, it's a girl from the islands that made it out of there because of her abilities. I guess it was her performative abilities. But yeah, I think everybody knows that there's writers behind the scenes writing all of these songs, that nobody writes these songs. Even if they claim they wrote these songs, there's other writing credits on there, and they probably did the majority of the writing. There's deadlines, there's all kinds of other things that these people have to meet. And so they cut corners and they do other things. And on top of that, when you're dealing with an industry that has agendas to push, they have to have these people come in and write it for them like a TV show. So, uh, because these TV shows have agendas, these movies have agendas, and the music has agendas. So, of course, the artist isn't going to do that. They're just a front facing person for it. So, you know, I bag on Beyonce all the time. I think she's got performative talent, performative. I don't think she can sing worth a damn. And, and so, yeah, so, I mean, I get that, but I think what I meant by talent, I mean, relative to her peers when it comes to performing, you know, and I think there's an artist behind that. Some people you could just clearly tell, like G Easy. You what the hell are you? You're just G Easy. You suck, dude. But why are you here? It's because you're front facing, and there's nothing else behind that. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
but Rihanna, I think there is an artist behind there, and I think that in her anti album, I think she had more creative control, and I guess on this one she's have more creative control. Even if you look at the writing credits, it's Tim from marketing who probably wrote some stuff, but it's still a situation where I think she executively produced it more. I had more of her hands in the dirt on it. So I think that there's artists out there that are more involved with their work, even though there's a whole bunch of writing credits. Because I think in order to make what's all this industrial stuff, you're gonna have a lot of hands in the pot. Nobody's just going in there by themselves penning the whole album. Like I don't think anybody does that. So I think it's relative. I guess what I was getting at is relative talent.
yeah, yeah. I think that performative talent is talent. That's why I'm not gonna go as far as you to say Taylor Swift is devoid of talent.
She is. She is.
That's fine. I'm not.
There's kids right now doing piano recitals at whatever, and that
That's
doesn't.
my well. That's the point that I'm making. That you have to place things into their proper context. She is a performer, not a pianist. So within the context of being a performer, I don't think she's talentless. But if you want to talk about artistic ability, playing instruments, being a pianist, being a guitarist, and whatever, she probably pales in comparison. But what has happened, as far as I can tell, is it's largely painted with a broad brush that she has all of this talent because I think what has been pushed is people like her are viewed as musicians, and I don't look at her as a musician. I look at her as an entertainer, and to me, you can be a great entertainer without being somebody who can write music or play an instrument. But I think we've gotten wildly out of balance when it comes to properly contextualizing music and artistry. And I think that that is a byproduct of the stranglehold that the music industry has on a particular artist's music or art or whatever it is that they're doing. So the more that we see a lot of these artists be able to do what they want to do, the more we'll be able to properly grade whatever level of talent they may or may not have. But right now, to me, it's just all murky. I don't know what any of this stuff is because the way that my brain computes talent is what do you write, what do you play, everything else to me, performative goes into that, but you can't classify somebody as a musician because they have high performative value. You have to look at that as they have high performative value. They can dance well, and they can move on a stage and they have stage command and presence. Those are all skills and things that can be trained and based on talent, so I don't want to take away from that, but that also is not the same as an artist or a musician, in my opinion. So, that's what I'm saying. That's why I thought that what she said was interesting, because I thought that it was a reflection on how confusing artistry and musicianship has become, as far as I can tell. So, we'll see, but definitely hear you on the point about industry plants and agendas and all of that kind of stuff. I wouldn't disagree with that, but within the scope of that, there's people who got abilities and talents. It just depends on whether they'll actually get to the point where they can actualize them.
That's
And
fair.
the majority of the time, these people can't actualize anything because the industry says you want to get this payday, you have to do what we say and do it how we say to do it. And so all you can do is cash in on that as much as possible before they get rid of you. It sucks, but that is how it works, at least up to this point.
Hey, fair enough, man. Taylor Swift still sucks though. So. Hey, man, she
Hey,
sucks.
I don't listen. I don't listen to her, but I don't. I don't know. She ain't my cup of tea, but it is what it is. If you can have Lil Pump and 6ix9ine, you can have Taylor Swift.
I'd rather listen to Lil Pump than listen to than listen to Taylor Swift. I'm sorry, I would.
I'd have to think about that.
Hell no. Hey, Ray, real quick, y'all. Would y'all rather listen to Lil Pump, or would you rather listen to Taylor Swift? If somebody made you listen to it for an hour, which one could you do more? I think I'd rather listen to Lil Pump. So
I'll take jail time.
I know you don't, bro.
Yeah. I was with that question up until you said for an hour. That was where
Yeah,
you
man.
lost
Hey,
me.
man, I could have said for a year. So hey, I just
Nah.
left for an hour. Dog. You
Give
can do
give what who said give me liberty or give me death?
that.
I'll take death.
Hysterical.
Shouts out shouts out to Rihanna.
Yeah.